Good afternoon. Welcome to Community Matters. This is your host, Becky Steinbruner, and I want to welcome you all to SantaCruzVoice.com and Community Matters. I would like to thank the Satellite Workspace and Digital Media Center for being our wonderful venue for the Santa Cruz Voice studio, and to invite you to come down and take a look at it. This is the first Friday of the month. You can come use the facilities for free and get a tour. It's a wonderful, very clean, very safe, very quiet work location that is available for rent by the hour, by the week, whatever you need. There are secure rooms if you want to have a small meeting. I cannot say enough good about Santa Cruz or a Satellite Workspace and Digital Center. It's at 325 SoCal Avenue in Santa Cruz between Ocean Street and the beautiful San Lorenzo River. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I have with me in the studio, I'm honored to have my guest, Gillian Greensite. We are going to dedicate this first hour to Mr. Bruce Bratton, who passed away. And recently, just this weekend, where there was a small gathering in his honor. It was quite an amazing event to hear the story of his life and everyone that he touched.
Yes, it was a good tribute to a terrific person. We miss him.
Indeed we do. But Bratton Online lives on, and Gillian, you are one of the contributors, as am I, and there are a host of others that will continue on in his good fight and getting information out to people.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your wonderful blogs on that. That's Bratton Online. Anybody can look it up and hop on, and there's a great archive on the side if you want to go back and look at some others. So before we dive into today's topic for Hour 1, which will be the Santa Cruz City Workforce Housing Solutions Act, I'd like to just give a bit of update for community activists who are concerned about the Moss Landing battery storage fallout, quite literally. The Moss Landing fire began January 16th, and there has been great concern in the community over the impacts of the cloud of heavy metals that went over Santa Cruz County and Monterey County. There is a group that formed, a grassroots group is called Never Again Moss Landing. They plan to do a protest this coming Wednesday, March 13th at 8 a.m. when the the California Coastal Commission, will be meeting in Santa Cruz at 313 Riverside Avenue. That will be at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel in Santa Cruz. Park near the boardwalk. Never Again Moss Landing will have signs, shirts, and flyers for everyone that wants to come. They're recommending you come at 8 a.m. because that's when all of the members of the Coastal Commission and staff come. They're protesting because the Coastal Commission should not permit a battery energy storage system in the coastal zone next to the marine sanctuary, the Orcorn Slough, that is lithium-based. That's the problem that happened with the thermal runway. So if you can, look up the website, Never Again Moss Landing, and plan to join the group March 13th, 8 a.m. at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, 313 Riverside Avenue. And that's Never Again Moss Landing. There's also a group meeting tomorrow at the Aptos Library at 10 a.m. That group is sort of working arm in arm with the Never Again Moss Landing, but this group called Stop Lithium Batteries Energy Storage Systems, BESS, in Santa Cruz County. Currently, the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors has approved in concept 3 such battery storage locations. one in Santa Cruz on Paul Sweet Road, one in Aptos on Freedom Boulevard, very close to Aptos High School. And then the third, Watsonville, 90 Minto Road off of Green Valley next to College Lake, and it is already in the permitting process, even though the county does not have an ordinance for these kinds of facilities. So tomorrow at the Aptos Library, 10 a.m., plan to go there and meet with others who are concerned and want to ask the County Board of Supervisors to take action immediately for an urgency ordinance to put a temporary moratorium on lithium-based battery energy storage system facilities in Santa Cruz County, to concurrently convene a technical advisory group that is not the industry buying us out, folks, and help give recommendations on safe, clean energy for Santa Cruz County and what that would look like. Currently, the Board of Supervisors is poised to adopt this ordinance that no one has seen next month on April 25th. So we've got to jump in there and, in the spirit of Bruce Bratton, join the fight. Thank you. Without further ado, I would like to again thank you, Gillian Greensite, for being here in the studio and for all that you do in our community. I've asked you to come today to talk with us about this Workforce Solutions Housing Act and what your concerns are about it. Please introduce yourself and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, very much for the opportunity and also for those very important announcements of events and protests coming up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure whether listeners, some may be very well aware of this a ballot measure that is, at the moment, folks are gathering signatures for it, and if they get the required number, it will then go to a vote of the Santa Cruz registered voters in the November election. So I'd like to start by just saying I support all of the housing activists and others who trying to find ways to provide more affordable housing. There's absolutely no debate that is a critical need in the community. And what I'm going to share, my concerns about the ballot measure, are in no way pointing the finger at people who do this hard work to get something going. Mm-hmm. And as there was a forum at the library last Saturday, I believe.
Yes, it was Saturday.
Yes, and those who were in support of the ballot measure spoke in favour of it. And I believe, was it only Bruce who was on your show prior time?
No, last week Community Matters hosted both Bruce Van Allen and Elaine Johnson.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's my hat's off to those folks. However, and in the spirit of what Mayor Keeley said at that forum, that if you can get 70%, you'll never get 100% of what you want in whatever effort you're doing. Mm-hmm. If you can get 70%, that's good, and you shouldn't hold out for 100% of nothing is nothing. Yeah. Words to that effect.
Yes.
They're very persuasive words, and I thought carefully about them. The problem is this particular measure, I don't think it is going to achieve, let's say it even passes, that's a different issue.
And let me jump in here.
Yes.
It can pass with 50% plus one.
Yes, 50% plus one.
Yeah.
If the council was going to put it on out as a ballot measure, it would have to get the 2/3 majority. Yes. So a community group took over the effort, and therefore, just as you say, 50% plus one, which of course is easier to get. Mm. So I have some serious problems with the ballot measure as written. And it's not just a matter of it's 70% good. I think it is fundamentally flawed. And if it passes, and people who have busy lives and they may not have time to look into the details, and if they hear this is for affordable housing and to prevent homelessness, and the amount of money, $96 on every property,
Every parcel.
Every parcel, but a big property, say with 100 apartments, only pays $96.
Right.
So I don't want to get sidetracked. And then there's a transfer tax on properties over 1.8 million. So I don't have a quarrel with that. I think that actually the Board of Realtors has brought up some concerns that are very valid, need to be discussed. So I don't want to get stuck on what it will cost this property owners in Santa Cruz. I want to look at what I think are the flaws in the ballot measure itself.
Yeah.
And to me, they're significant. That I don't think we're anywhere near 70% good.
I don't
So let me just share them. First off is that the name of the ballot measure, Workforce Housing Solutions Act. Now, a reasonable person would interpret that this is housing that is going to be for the workforce, and since it's also got affordable Workforce Housing Solutions Act, I think that word is in there. So you would think it's going to our essential workers or workers, Santa Cruz workers. Well, when you go and look at the definitions page, you'll find that workforce housing is defined as housing affordable for low, very low, extremely low income people. And then the word worker does not enter the definition. So to me, that starts to sound like marketing, not honesty. There's the other part of it is that the Citizens Oversight Committee, which is in the text of the ballot measure. And by the way, if I could digress just a moment, it's quite hard to find the text of the ballot measure.
It is very hard to find.
Yes, you and I were talking before we went on air. You can find it if you go to the website of the Workforce Housing Solutions Act, and you'll get to their website, but it doesn't have a link that says text of the ballot measure.
Yeah.
So if you search around, which I did, and I finally found an entry that said background to the measure. And I clicked on that, and then you can get to a summary and then the text. But that's a rather circuitous way to find it. But anyway, so a little difficult to find. But I really encourage people to look at it and read it, open-minded, but also with some knowledge or questions.
Yes.
The other, I think, glaring, misleading entry is under the Citizens Oversight Committee. Now, if I heard, let's say I hadn't read and I heard, there's going to be a Citizens Oversight Committee who, oversight of the money that will come in from the property tax and the transfer. When you sell a house, that money will come to the city. I'll go into that in a minute. That there's going to be citizens' oversight of how the money's used, where it goes, accountability, etc. Well, I don't think so. First of all, there is an annual report from the Director of Finance. That's part of the Citizens Oversight Committee. So that will go to City Council. And then the Oversight Committee is made up of 3 members. One is the financial director that I just mentioned, who will give the annual report on how finances are being spent. It'll be the financial director a member of a local bank or a credit union, or a CEO of a local bank or credit union, and one member of the public. Both of those latter two will be chosen by City Council. There's no entry on how often that group will meet, irrespective of that's rather a small contribution from the community,
from the
one
public.
person
Right.
chosen by the council. No word on what their task is or anything. So I think that is a huge gap in the ballot measure.
Yeah.
And, it's not enough for people to say, oh, well, ballot measures don't have that. Well, yes, they do. I was around for when we developed a ballot measure for Commission for the Prevention of Violence Against Women, and that has quite details on, etc., details that should be in this one but aren't. So there's two things that I found not quite transparent. It doesn't say anything about workers, even though that's in the title, and the oversight seems very limited. Now, to its credit, in the ballot measure, there is an entry that said that any housing that is brought about by this tax money that goes into the city's economic development and housing department, that will be, the preference for that housing will be local Santa Cruz residents and local workers, and then they will, and veterans. Now, that looks good to the untrained, well, I don't mean untrained eye, but someone who just trust that this will happen.
The trusting eye.
The trusting
That's
eye.
the
Yes,
word.
That's right. Well, as you know, Becky, that I last year was on the civil grand jury, and you've mentioned this before. And one of the 9 reports that we put out was titled Housing for Whom? And it was an investigation into how the City of Santa Cruz, which has the same preferences, locals, local workers, and then it goes, that's for the city, and then the 3 and 4 priority is the same for the county. And it says that those preferences shall operate when inclusionary housing, when people are applying for inclusionary housing. There has to be preferences for locals and local workers. Well, we were interested in, is that happening?
Yeah.
Is there data? Can the city provide us with information that says, yes, absolutely. How many of the inclusionary units are occupied by students? So that was our year's investigation. It was a lot of work. It wasn't opinion-based. Every statement was supported by multiple sources, documented, and the end result of the investigation was that the city keeps no data.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. They don't know. They can hypothesize, they can give their impressions, but they really don't know. And so our recommendations were, because if you're going to say that we've got a law on the books,
Yes.
that such housing that is developers provide, the inclusionary housing, that it's supposed to go to locals and local workers, it should be doing that. Or why is the law on the book? No accountability. So we made some recommendations for the city to gather data, also data on how what percentage of the units are occupied by UCS students, which you would think the city would want to know because it's in legal negotiations with the university over their provision or lack thereof of housing.
Yes.
So you think they'd like to know that figure, but the city basically, time doesn't allow me to give all the details, but you can obviously tell from my tone that not much came of that. The city disagreed with all our findings, and in terms of our recommendations, which were short, there were 4 of them, 3 of them they said that was gathering data and making it available to the public, etc. They basically said, oh, we've done that. Well, the facts don't support that at all.
No.
And they said they weren't going to do the student one. They said, no, the university can do that. But for the other three, they said, we feel our documents are sufficient to comply with this, so we've already done it. Well, we spent the year analysing every one of their documents. Mm-hmm. There's no data gathering that results from that. So it was a really disingenuous a disingenuous response.
Yes.
So given that experience, when I first caught sight of this ballot measure and I saw that they had an entry that said there's priority for local workers, of course, from my experience, it was, you've got no mechanism in there to guarantee that. That is, it's the same. We've got it in the municipal code, and it isn't happening. It's not checked. And now you've got it in this ballot measure with no mechanism where you would verify, check, and document. And last time when you had folks in support of this ballot measure on your program, and you raised this as a question with Bruce Van Allen, who I have a lot of respect for.
I do.
And Bruce responded that it was illegal, against the law, to have preferences. Now, Bruce is wrong on that. That is incorrect. Obviously, you can't have a preference based on someone's ethnicity. You can't have a preference based on their sexual orientation or gender identity, etc., etc. You know, those are protected categories, so you can't do that. And that would be a discrimination and grounds for lawsuits, etc. However, you can certainly have a preference for local residents and workers.
Yes.
Otherwise, the city attorney would never have allowed this to be law in our city's municipal code.
So
and
one would think.
Law, right. So Bruce was wrong. So I wanted to correct that. So let me. So that's my main two. I'll summarise because so we can have more of a back and forth. So two main reasons I'm opposed to it. This measure, this ballot measure. One, there's no guarantee. This money gathered from city only, city taxpayers. Yeah. There's no guarantee it is going to city workers or local city residents. Yeah. So that to me is a major flaw. If you want to provide affordable housing, and it's a critical need, and you want to provide it for the whole county, for the campus, then you get a county-wide ballot measure, or you get UCSC to draw something up. Right. But you don't put this on the back, this is just my view, you don't put this on the back of city taxpayers and property owners if it's just going to be for anybody. So major flaw. And the last thing I'll say is the critical need for affordable housing from my people I know is for our workers who have rented here for many years. Now, I'm not talking about the ones who already have commuted for the last decades from Watsonville to work in Santa Cruz. I'm talking about our local workers who have rented here and their jobs are here. But because the rents are going up, they are leaving. They're predominantly, the ones I know are all Spanish speaking, and with very few exceptions, they have families, and within the last 6 months to a year, they're moving out. They're being pushed out to Watsonville, to Salinas, one person I know even to San Jose. Now, they still drive into Santa Cruz to their jobs. So by not having them central and safeguards, so yes, this money will go to them or their counterparts, the ballot initiative is violating its statement where it says it's good to have workers live near where they work. That feels to me, when you don't have the mechanism to guarantee that, that
Yes.
to me is misusing feel-good statements to get support. It's not in the heart of the ballot measure itself.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, I'm aware that the last year's Santa Cruz County Civil Grand Jury report, Housing for Whom, had required responses from the City Council. And do you want to talk with us a little bit about how the City Council and Mayor responded? I remember reading in your Bratton Online. It was
Right.
quite shocking.
Yes, counties and cities and other bodies like the sheriff is required to respond to the grand jury's findings and recommendations. If they've enacted them, they can just say has been enacted, but otherwise they've got to explain their responses. For the Housing for Whom one, and there of course were other reports.
Yes.
And we did one on rape prevention, and
That was an excellent report too.
Yeah, thank you. But the Housing for Whom one, the response was largely dismissive, I would say, in that either it didn't answer the statement, or it answered something else. So we were very specific in the recommendations, and they would, by saying it's already done, but then they would say things like, well, anyway, we couldn't gather this information because it's an invasion of privacy. That was, to gather data on whether preferences are going to local people and local workers. They saw that, they dismissed it. First of all, they said, well, we're doing it anyway. It's covered in our documents, which it isn't.
Right.
But even if we did it, it would be an invasion of privacy. That doesn't stand the accuracy test.
No.
Because already, and folks should be clear, we're not here talking about economic level. That is covered and studied, and documents sought and gathered by the Housing Authority. So you can be pretty much, well, I hope so, but at least there are checks and scrutiny, and people have to give their tax returns and other things to show they're qualified at an income level. So we're not talking that, rich people are getting these apartments. We're talking about, are they locals or local workers? Preferences. Okay? And so when they say an invasion of privacy, first of all, if someone's going to apply for an inclusionary or low-income housing, affordable housing, in quotes, they have to provide all of that documentation to show that they are at that income level that they can qualify. There's no reason you couldn't gather the same sort of documents, there'd be different ones, to show your workplace. A statement from your boss, how long you've worked there, whether, the seal of where the restaurant is, or the cleaning service, how many years you've worked there, etc. And the same thing from a local person, where's the rent you've paid, who's your landlord.
Right.
None of that information would be released to the public. No. And it would be data that's released. Yes, 90% of our inclusionary housing are occupied by local workers. Yes. Fabulous. That's all we want to hear. And only 1% are occupied by students. I think that would make a lot of people quite happy. The university could be, so it keeps growing. It could be supplying low-income housing. It can't because it's too expensive. That's why we get 51% of students who are creating the rental housing crisis. In the last 20 years,
definitely
it has been
contributing.
University growth that has caused that rental housing crisis.
Yes.
Anyway, so they basically said they couldn't do it when they actually could. And let's say if they, I've done a bit of research on this, as you can imagine, when they said if they were saying, well, we gather that data, that's then public information under the Freedom of Information Act. People could say, I want to see that documentation for this apartment from, Fred Blow. No. If you read the Freedom of Information Act, there are exceptions, and number 6 covers that sort of thing. So no, the public couldn't get that information. And if you don't even want to risk that, then you have the property manager who's supposed to be following the preferences. Supposed to be, that's in the contract they sign, that 40-page agreement. Buried on page 34 is the preferences. They're supposed to be doing them. They're not. Nobody checks. Maybe they are, but I don't think they are.
Yeah.
They could gather all that documentation, so it's not even in City Hall.
Right.
And then an auditor, that would be either someone on city staff at the top level, could go and review all that documentation, make a spreadsheet with numbers. And that could be publicly available. So
absolutely.
Frankly, the responses were, I thought, dismissive, arrogant, and just showed that they don't really, it seems to me they could care less. They're for affordable housing. But whether it's because some of the top people don't live in the city, whether it's they just think affordable housing, that's it, a drumbeat, and who it goes to, apart from, the proper income level, is not of concern. I don't want to sort of second guess their motives, but the end result is that our local workforce are the ones missing out on this.
Yeah.
I mean, even I know on their web, they improved their website during the investigation. We did notice that. Formerly it was rather hard to find anything, and all of a sudden, oh, that's nice. I spent a lot of time looking for that, and now you've got it where it should be. So, they haven't moved in a direction. And I think that this ballot measure, I don't know who all drew it up.
That is an interesting question, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But I think that they shared the lack of concern in the real world, not just at an abstract level. Let's call it a workforce, solutions act. I mean, to me, I don't like that sort of politics. It's manipulative. It's not honest.
Yeah.
And it sort of shows people haven't been in the trenches with the people who are affected by this housing crisis. They may have one or two friends, but a bit better analysis, a bit better, and I think we could maybe get it up to the 70% Fred was talking about, the mayor was talking about. And I would support it if that had been in there. Although I thought I had a house worth $1.8 million today sounds, wow. Well, that's way up there. But as someone said to me, I hadn't even thought of this. Yes, but 5 years, the house that today, the shack that may be at 800,000 could be 2 million. That means
it could be
anybody wanting to sell their house and downsize is going to be impacted by that transfer tax. I think the folks who made up this ballot measure, I understand because I have a similar sentiment. You think 1.8 million, that's all the rich, so tax the rich. But on the ground level, it looks a bit different to that.
Yes.
I'm not saying the people who can afford a second house, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, I think they should be taxed a lot. But maybe the impact of this is not quite as it seems. It's not the rich are being taxed necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Certainly not with the prices of real estate now, as we're seeing them. It's hitting. It would
Yes.
hit, as a caller on our program last week pointed out, this will hit the common people. And as was pointed out by someone at the forum on Saturday, it will also affect commercial property.
That's interesting, yes. I hadn't even gone there. It's true. If, like my neighbours of 37 years, they've sold, like, most people on my street, their houses were bought in the 70s or early 80s, long-time residents, most. It's changing. They paid $70,000 for it, and the house, they sold their house for $1.25 million and moved to be closer to their son, who's a teacher in the Central Valley. Well, and they had to buy another house. They're not selling, one of two houses. I don't have any, tears for folks who have two houses and sell one. But, they could have been, if they waited a while, their house could be worth $1.8 million, and then they would have to pay some of this. So it would affect them differently than someone with a couple of houses and just turning them over.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, there's that. But again, I want to make clear my main issues were not the money. Even if it affected me, it wasn't the money. It was that it's a disingenuous ballot measure. It's got nothing to do with our local workers. That there's words on paper that unless something happens, that I think they make it meaningless, and it's not an academic question to me. I know these families who've left after quite a few decades renting in Santa Cruz, and the side. Well, we don't know what's. Well, there's another thing, Becky. They've got a laundry list of who these houses will go to. I'll just read it. It's in the resolution text. Lower income working individuals and families, essential workers, that's who they say it'll go to. It's not like they have ways of accomplishing that. That's just that's their wish list. Disadvantaged veterans, seniors, low and moderate income households, those with disabilities, homeless and supportive housing for those with mental health challenges or substance use disorders. That's a lot of people, and a lot of categories.
It is.
Who's going to choose?
Right.
You see, without a Citizens Oversight Committee, is this just the Director of Economic Development and Housing and her team choosing? And are her choices in line with what the community wants? After all, it's her department who didn't want to go anywhere near the recommendations from the grand jury, and her department who crafted the responses that council adopted that basically said we're fine with the status quo. Now, that's enough information. So I don't have much trust in that procedure. So,
No. That was my question too, Gillian, was who's going to decide? Who will decide? And what will be the criteria for prioritizing? As you pointed out very, very nicely, there is no guarantee that the preference would be for local working people in the city of Santa Cruz. So I am in your camp. I think this is disingenuous, and I have to wonder, our guests last week said this petition initiative has been in the works for about a year and a half. They've been crafting it. So they had the opportunity to address some of the issues the grand jury brought forth in the report, excellent report, I may add, but they didn't. So, again, that adds another layer of, in my mind, mistrust.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's and I wouldn't mind so much if they'd called it, sort of, they just called it an affordable housing ballot measure, and made it clear that this could be for anybody, etc. That would be honest in my mind. I mean, I voted for Measure S for the library, assuming they were going to renovate the library that I've known since 1975. Took mine, when he was a little boy, to the library. And look what we've got. Yeah. I also voted for Measure D, the transportation one. Yeah. And I was sceptical, but I read it, and where it said under rail trail, it said that Measure D funds will be used only to study the feasibility of the rail plus trail. And I thought, well, I can support that because I think it's important. If it's feasible, by all means go ahead. If it's not, then we don't want to, obviously go in that direction. But I don't want any money spent on building the rail trail before we've got the feasibility. Lo and behold, numerous times at a city council, one of the agenda items is the expenditure of Measure D funds on the construction of segment 7, phase 1 or 2 of the rail trail. And at one point I got up and asked, I said, repeated what I said, what I just shared with you. And how is this happening? I said, isn't this a violation of the wording of the initiative? And the staff simply said, we take it from another category.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We take the money build the rail trail from another category of Measure D funds. Now, if that isn't blatantly improper,
exactly,
I don't know what it is. It's certainly what hoodwinks the public voting. I never would have voted for Measure D on that basis. I never would have voted for Measure S. No. And I think in that spirit, my caution with ballot measures is justified when I look at the details of this one.
We are very lucky to have the benefit of this excellent grand jury investigative report, because it really brings to the forefront what the city is and is not doing.
Yes, and it's a shame there is not more teeth in the response, that the grand jury isn't able to have more of when the city basically shines it on, or says something that's inaccurate, or says something in response that, well, no, that isn't what, that's not the issue or the question. There's no teeth to come back and require them to do it properly. That's a limit on the grand jury. And I would add that the previous year's grand jury did a similar study, and they came up with similar, they wanted data. That was sort of shrugged off. And one of the responses, so that's how I got interested in this particular issue of preferences, was because one of their sort of responses to the then grand jury, the year before I was on, was, well, we have that is solved because is this housing helping local workers? Well, we have preferences, so that solves the problem. So and they listed the preferences and the municipal code, and I thought, I didn't know we had preferences for inclusionary housing. How interesting. I wonder if they're being followed. She asks. Right, we know the answer, don't we? No, they're not. But, that's, anyway. Yes, so I think our report was a good one.
Yes.
And I think it was backed by the previous years. And maybe, I'm not a pessimist and I'm not a cynic. I try and look clearly at what's going on. And what I do bridle at, though, is when it's disingenuous. As already said, Measure Measure S, Measure D. That irks me that I voted for something because it was not presented accurately.
Yes.
So same here. It's not being presented accurately. Maybe there's time for the City Council to adopt procedures that would make, that would actually gather data, but it would have to be watertight. If it was just words or we'll do our best or to the extent possible.
Best efforts, best management practices, that's the one they'll
Exactly, yes.
And another claim I always question, Gillian, is when they say there will be senior exemptions, because I haven't been able to find the analysis and petition language for this particular issue, but in the past I have worked on ballot measures where they make this claim, senior exemptions, which would lead one to think that, I won't have to pay it. I'll be exempted. When in fact what has to happen is the senior must apply every year with the state tax board, and it may or may not be granted. If it is granted, it isn't that you don't ever have to pay it. It's that it collects in a fund with interest being charged against it. And when your property is sold or you are not allowed to get this exemption again, it all comes home to roost.
So it then gets taken out?
Then it gets taken out.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I discovered that actually when I was working on a countywide affordable housing bond Measure H in, I can't remember what year that was, but I learned that.
Yes. Yeah, the devil's in the details, as we always say.
Indeed.
Yes.
I want to thank you for your good work. And would you like to take some calls if they want to call in? All right, let me see if I can get this to go. If you'd like to call in, please feel free to do so. You can call 831-265-5050, and let's see if this is going to work. My apologies. I am not so good on these. Connect to show. Okay, I don't know if this is working or not. It seems that everything is hooked up. So if you'd like to call in, join the conversation, 831-265-5050, and I hope that you can get through. You're listening to Community Matters. My name is Becky Steinbruner. I have the honor of having guest Gillian Greensite in the studio here with me, and we are talking about the Santa Cruz City petition gathering effort that is underway right now. They need 3,600 some odd qualified petition signatures. You must be a registered voter within the City of Santa Cruz. You don't have to be a property owner, but a registered voter. And this is for the Santa Cruz Workforce Housing Solutions Act. There was an interesting article in the recent Lookout Santa Cruz talking about why the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors opposes this. They're calling it Fred Keeley's workforce, Fred Keeley being the mayor of Santa Cruz. And it gives a bit of a history about this whole thing and how it came to be. It's been being crafted by, I'm not exactly sure whom, over this time. But in this article, and this again is from the Lookout Santa Cruz article, I think it was 3 days ago. I'll read to you a little bit. In 2023, the Santa Cruz City Council, under the leadership of Mayor Fred Keeley, took action to use taxpayer funds to pay for a citywide poll, asking Santa Cruz City voters how they would feel about a potential parcel tax to partially fund affordable housing developments in the city of Santa Cruz. The results of that taxpayer-funded poll, released in May of 2023, indicated that about 57% on the average of Santa Cruz voters would support a parcel tax of either $75 or $150 per year for the purpose of affordable housing and homelessness services. It fell nearly 10% short of the needed 66.6%, the two-thirds amount, to pass if the City Council directly put the initiative on the ballot. Soon after, Mayor Fred Keeley asked us, and this is an article by Renee Mello, president of the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors, asked us to consider support or, at a minimum, neutrality on the measure. We agreed to participate in future meetings in good faith with the goal of trying to find a common ground. To be clear, the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors never agreed not to oppose the measure. And that is something that I heard in the interview last Friday and again on the forum Saturday, is that the group had worked with many nonprofits, and while some of them did not agree, they agreed not to oppose it.
Yes, I heard that too.
So that isn't absolutely correct either.
I thought, I may be wrong, but I thought there was some mention that the board of directors did this and the head did something else. It sounded like there were two separate entities associated with the board of realtors. But anyway, that's a very clarifying letter that you just quoted from. And I think the biggest dissension within the sort of housing activist community, if you want to use that term, was some wanted a parcel. A lot of people only wanted a transfer tax.
Yes.
On properties, sort of seeing anyone who owns a property as privileged, which is true. Doesn't mean they're really well off, because the value is artificial. It's an artificial number. Now, if you sell your house, yes, you will get that amount, but you've got to buy somewhere else unless you decide something else. So they only wanted a transfer tax, whereas the Board of Realtors and other groups like Santa Cruz Together, is that the right name? Santa Cruz
Together is the one they're thinking would oppose them.
Yes.
There was Our Downtown, Our Future
No,
work with them.
I'm talking about Santa Cruz Together would not support it if it was only the transfer tax, because other way round. If it was only the parcel tax, Santa Cruz Together, Board of Realtors, they wouldn't do the transfer. Anyway, the point being that they struck a compromise with the $96 per annum for the property tax and the over 1.8 million, I think it's 2% transfer.
It's tiered. It goes up as it gets higher.
Up. Yes, it does go up, but 2% on that if you sell a property when it's valued over that. So, I thought that was a creative way to, have more buy-in from various groups. So I'm not quarrelling about that. They did a good job. It's just they didn't think of who is this housing for? Housing for whom? Central issue, no mechanisms, and so that was the dissension within the housing activist community. Yeah,
Gillian, we're down to a half a minute.
Oh,
wow!
How time flies when you.
What do you think people should do? What do you think people should do?
I would say read. First of all, find it and read this ballot measure. Think about the issues of that. If we're going to tax only people in Santa Cruz, then shouldn't whatever flows from that go only to those who live or work here? And secondly, without a mechanism to make sure that happens, then you can't call it workforce housing.
Correct. Thank you very much, Gillian Greensite.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your good work. We're off the air.
We're off the air.
we're off the air.
Well, that was fun. Thank you.
Thank you
It's always
so much.
good to chat. I forget sort of that we're on the radio, but I don't forget to the point where I say something really rude, though.
I'm a little concerned. I thought we would get some calls. So I'm hoping that I got this hooked up correctly.
Okay.
But
Yeah, calls would always be good.
last week we had a very good caller.
Yes,
And-
I listened after the fact, you
Yeah.
know. Yes, he was very good.
Do you know him?
No, never heard of him.
John McKelvey.
Yes.
McKelvey.
But he didn't, I don't think he came to the forum because I think he would have spoken up. Yes, no, there were a few things he said I didn't agree with, but mostly I thought that was a good challenge from a different perspective. Yeah.
And that he really thought that if the city were not going to ensure that only city people could be there, that it really should be a county-wide. And
Yes, I mean, that's the point, but it's too late for that.
yeah,
That's
you
the
can't change
problem.
Then you're
No.
pointing that out. You can't change it now.
Can't change it now,
Yeah.
so we're sort of stuck with it.
They could scrap it and go back to the drawing board, but
They seem very. I've talked with ODOF people. Yeah, that's right. And Bruce and John Hall. And John thinks we can put together something that Fred will get past that will be, make sure it's local workers. I don't.
if it isn't in the ballot,
If it isn't in the ballot, yes, that's right.
and your information here about the composition of the Oversight Committee
Yes.
is news to me because I asked the question.
You
that question
did, didn't
to
you?
Elaine, and she said, "We'll work it out with Bonnie Lipscomb."
Yeah, with Bonnie Lipscomb. I mean, sorry, but Bonnie Lipscomb is very effective and a lot of respect for someone in that position. And I don't agree with how she handles things at all.
No.
And
You can't just say one thing and then work out something different.
No. When I was at another meeting this morning about the downtown extension thing, and the mayor was there, so I was watching the time, and I had time to go home because I thought, the one thing I don't remember from the text of it is the Citizens Oversight Committee. So I raced home and found the thing and wrote down the notes, including the name of it. So that is, accurate. But that's terrible. I mean, that to me, I think actually city staff had more input in writing this.
I think.
Yeah, now we're
so
talking.
as well.
Yeah, it has that feel to it. Yeah, the slick name. The preferences, the priorities.
The results of the survey and what the caller last week said is the city council is on record of saying that they didn't feel that they could
Yeah, right.
approval.
Get the approval.
And that's that survey that the city paid for. So they've handed it over to a nonprofit, calling it a citizens group.
Oh, yeah, that's another stretch, isn't it? Well, I was thinking last night, if they get the signatures and it goes on the ballot, there's room for, there's the pro and con.
Yes.
Well, I hope others will join me, but I'm happy to put my name to the con. I did that when it wasn't just me, it was me, Ron Pomerantz and Susan Martinez, when they want the first sales tax rise they wanted. And we wrote a rebuttal that lost by something like 34 votes. So it was only due to the fact that there was a rebuttal. Next,
It matters a lot.
It does. Now you have other guests,
I
don't
have
you?
to get her on the phone, and I'm hoping I can do that.
Okay. Well, I'll go.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Becky,
Thank
it's
you.
fabulous to always talk with you, and now I go home with chocolates. That's lovely. Oh, okay. Good.
All right.
Oh, it's almost Monday for another Bratton Online, isn't it? Now, do you want this? I don't need it. That's my summary
yes,
of
I
them.
would.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And tell me if you can't find the text, and I'll take a screenshot of their page and point you to it. But I think you will.
I'll dig it. Now you've helped me find out where to dig. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for your work.
Ready to connect. Click Connect to show now. You are connected as the host.
Hello, this is your host, Becky Steinbruner. Thank you for hanging on here and listening to Community Matters. My first guest of the 2-hour space was Gillian Greensite. And boy, do I have a lot of respect for her. All of the work she does to really ask the questions that we all need to be asking, and some of us are asking, and she goes digging and finds the answers and brings it up and asks the questions at Santa Cruz City Council meetings, and served on the Santa Cruz County Civil Grand Jury to do an investigation to answer the question, I wonder if they're doing that. Well, it turns out they are not keeping records. They are not tracking anything with inclusionary, affordable housing in the city of Santa Cruz. So how can we trust them? I don't know. We need to hold them accountable. And so the way to do that is to go to the city council meetings, write letters to the editor, really hold their feet to the fire, and insist that they answer your questions. My second hour guest is Kris Kirby, who is should be calling in, and I'm a little concerned
Ready to
because
connect. Click Connect to show now.
am not seeing anyone calling in. No one called in. Oh, now we're on the air. Welcome back, folks. This is Becky Steinbruner. I forgot to click a button, and my apologies. So, welcome back to Community Matters. I'm Becky Steinbruner, and I want to thank my first hour guest, Gillian Greensite, for
Ready to connect. Click Connect to show now. You are connected
being my
as the
guest,
host.
and I'm hoping
Welcome,
that my second
host.
hour guest,
You are now in the host
Kris
room
Kirby,
and can manage your
is able
callers
to
from the
call
call-in
in.
studio
I'm
web
a little
interface.
concerned with the
Audio
technology and
recording
my
is
use of
on.
it here,
Dual channel.
because normally she would call. And there it is. Let's see. Here we go. There she is. Hello, Kris. Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Becky.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Bless your heart.
Are you having a hard time?
I am having a challenging afternoon. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to hear your voice.
Likewise. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. I always get a little rattled when things don't go quite smoothly. So thank you for calling in and holding on for a while.
Yeah, no problem.
For those of you who have just joined us, I'm honored to have as my guest for the second hour, Kris Kirby. Kris, I like having Kris on every month because I miss her so much. She and many of us in the community miss you, Kris. But I think it's an interesting element to have to Community Matters at a time when many people are thinking about leaving California, and that is exactly what you did. You had been a resident, a California native, very well established in the community and deep roots, and you pulled them up and you moved. So I think a lot of people are thinking about doing that, and that's why I like to have you on the air every month. And thanks for agreeing to shuffle around a little bit so I could accommodate the guests last week. Normally, you'll be here the last Friday of every month. So, Kris, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what made you leave California.
Okay. So yes, I was born and raised in Saratoga, San Jose area, and then moved over to Aptos 28 years ago, and been very involved. Raised my 4 sons in Aptos. Great community. Everything, was good. And I couldn't take so many things there anymore, and we finally made the move out. I think traffic was my number one hatred. Mm-hmm. It's a complete waste of our time to be, it takes an hour and a half one way from, say, Aptos to Santa Cruz or wherever. You based your life on the schedule of traffic, and I just hated that. As most people know, I'm a conservative, and I can't stand Gavin Newsom and all his rules and penalties and just things that were not in my thinking. So that was probably number 2. Number 3, I had some neighbors not turn on me, but kind of turn on me because I am a conservative, and they were just rude as rude could be, and I just had enough. Mm-hmm. And we had been looking a lot up in Oregon. We had gone to Boise, but it was just more traffic, more congestion, more of that. We wanted something a little bit more rural. So we were looking in the Bend Sisters area, and that place had gotten more and more and more expensive. And my husband's dad lives here in Grants Pass, has for 30 years. And we've always come up here, and I was always kind of intrigued with it, but we never ventured out most from his house because he is not a venturing out from his house kind of guy. So when we came up here in August, we went and looked at some houses, and this last house we saw, we said, oh my God, this is it. So we made an offer, and they accepted before we even got home, mm-hmm. or back to Aptos, and we had a 45-day close, and we made it happen. That was amazing. A crazy 45 days.
That's a really short time for everything that you had to do.
Yeah, I sold my business, which I did. I don't know if I've talked to you. 2 of our sons haven't talked to us in a while, and one of them, the youngest one, hadn't talked to us in about a year and a half, and he actually called a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Which I know. I knew you'd be happy to hear that.
Yes.
So we're in communication again, but that's another story. But he said, "What do you do all day now that you're not working?" And I said, "A lot of whatever I want to do. It's great. I paint. I have gotten involved with the Republicans up here, and this county, this town is mostly conservative, so it's great. In Southern Oregon, everyone's like, you're going to hate Oregon because it's liberal, but it's kind of like you find pockets of conservative in California as you do up here. Portland and Salem and Eugene run the state, but the rest of us are not liberals. So where we are, the city council is now all conservatives, and the commissioners, which are like supervisors, and I actually know them by name now. I mean, it's just a small community, and I love it.
Wow. A small community with no traffic.
Yeah, and reasonable prices, and no sales tax. I can't tell you how big that is.
No sales tax. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's you go out to dinner or you buy something, then it's $39.99. Period. There's no added extortion. Is really what it is. It's almost 10%. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. It adds up. Many people are considering moving out of California. Many people are. I looked up a little bit of information before the show. Why are people leaving California, and where are they going? This is from a publication called Moving Trends, and this was from an article February 6th of 2025, so a month ago. And it talks about, it's actually sponsored by Pods, which I think you used, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that in a moment. Why are people leaving California? It is an expensive housing market. The high taxes. California has the nation's highest state income tax rate at 12.3%. Low job growth rate, natural disasters and wildfires, and my thoughts immediately were for all the people who just got burned out in Southern California. Businesses are also leaving California, and 441 businesses have left California since 2018, moving their headquarters to a different state because of the high cost of living for their employees. The top destination cities for people leaving California are Dallas, Texas, and Seattle, Washington, Boise, Idaho, Nashville, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, and those are the main ones because it costs less to live there. So you've told us how it's so much more affordable, and I want to, if it's okay with you, Kris, I'd like people to call in if they want to join the conversation here. 831-265-5050, 831-265-5050, and join the conversation. Are you thinking about moving out of California? Maybe you have moved out of California, because people around the world can be listening to Santa Cruz Voice anywhere in the world. What was the process like? What was the? I think you were probably actually lucky that it was so fast. You didn't have time to really think too much because it was a fast-moving roller coaster. Would you agree with that? What would you have done differently?
Yeah. I don't know if I've done anything differently. We hadn't moved for 27 years, and I raising 4 kids in our house. I mean, I had a lot of stuff to go through, and we did move a lot of it. Luckily, we have a lot of storage and a lot of property, so there's a lot of stuff, in the storage shed we have. It's a storage building, I guess. But I got rid of a lot of stuff. We did use pods. They were great. We did 2 pods, and then we bought a 16-foot trailer, so we moved up. I think we did 3 loads of that till the final end. And, I was probably a lunatic during all that, and every night we'd lay there before going to sleep and go, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing it? We'll never be able to come back.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, isn't it?
We could come back to visit, but we could never move back there because of the cost and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Mark's still working remotely from here. His boss did not want to get him to leave, so that part of it's been good. And he starts at 6:30 in the morning, works till about 3:30, and that part's been it's good to have his paycheck, obviously.
But this has probably been pretty nice for him. I mean, he used to get up at dark 30 and drive a long way and work all day and drive a long way home. And now he can...
no more of that.
That's got to be much better for his health, too.
Yeah, it's so funny. He'll get up and the cat, we have a cat named Bucky, and Bucky and him go to work every day together. And I say, don't let Bucky drive. Because obviously he's just walking down the hallway in a good office. So, yeah, it has been good for him. I mean, it's moving and not having any friends and not, I only knew a few people. It's challenging, but I think we're over the hump. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've gotten involved in the Republican committee here and a lot of nice people, and I'm having fun with that, and I can do what I want. I don't have to be full, I'm just here and there doing things. Mm-hmm. Let's see, what else? So we bought a beautiful property along the Rogue River. It's like 7 acres, so trust me, we got plenty to do here. I'm looking at it right now. It's just a beautiful property, and that's probably what convinced us to jump right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, we lucked out. In California, money goes far, so that's good. Mark's bought a tractor. He loves that. I got a golf cart the other day. I used a used one, and I used that to carry things. You know, it was really windy a couple weeks ago, and a lot of branches were down. So we used that and went around and got all the branches. And I don't know. It's everybody's so kind up here. Everybody. So my second son Matt just moved up here last week.
Oh, he did. Good.
Yeah, I know. I haven't talked to you in person or on the phone in a while. Yeah, so his house actually went on the market today, so hopefully that'll sell. But yeah, Mark went down, got all this stuff with this trailer we had gotten, which is coming in handy, and he just came up last Thursday, and so luckily we have an apartment over our garage, so he's living there and comes over to eat, and he's got a dog, and Daisy, my Great Dane, loves having her around. So it's just really working out. It's just amazing how it's worked out.
That is great.
He needs to get a job, which he will, and it's all good.
That is so good.
You came from Oregon originally, and you know how kind everybody is to each other. Was it like that when you were growing up?
Yes, it was. I grew up in a very small town, a population of 1,000, and I was out on a farm. So it was an agricultural community, which I think tend to be a little more, I don't know, down to earth. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, but help your neighbor kind of people.
Right. We just all took care of each other, and my sisters didn't like that because they felt like everybody knew everything about them, and it's a small community. But
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Exactly. So you have come from being a mover and shaker in the political area and the many arenas in Santa Cruz County you were involved in. How are you adjusting to how you use your time in Grants Pass, Oregon, and what are you finding of interest to do there, and how do you find those things to do? You just run into people, or?
Yeah, I've been painting, which is really an odd thing because I'm not a creative painter kind of person. I'm actually doing a big, 18 by 24 paint by number. You can order them online.
Oh, fun.
And it's so relaxing. I know, so relaxing to sit here. My friend Lisa, who I've known since kindergarten, lives here, and she is artistic, way more than me. And she and I have been painting. We painted some irises and a bear, and she's painting all the time. So it's really. I have a great table overlooking our lawns and the river, and I just am chilling out. Is what it is, I guess.
Wow, that's got to be a lot better. That's got to be so much better for your health too, Kris.
Yeah, it is. I went to the chiropractor today. I had a massage the other day. Just taking care of me and Mark and now Matt and Daisy. Daisy's got a great life. She loves our yard and she's a happy girl. Mm-hmm. She loves going to Home Depot and to the Grange Co-op, and everybody loves her. It's just a different life, I guess. I don't know.
Slower, more people-friendly.
Yeah, we're 4 miles out of town, so Matt and I we just went to Home Depot because we had to get some blinds for the apartment that I didn't realize weren't in. And I said we're at here goes a boat down the river right now, or it's coming up the river. They go fishing all the time.
Wow.
We have not done yet. We've we have a dock, but it's been covered by water.
Oh.
Because this river really comes up and down a lot.
Uh-huh.
And it's supposed to rain a lot next week, so I expect it'll come back up.
Mm-hmm.
But we're 4 miles out of town, and Matt and I were just talking that it's a perfect distance away from all the, the stores and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too far, but it's not too close.
Mm-hmm.
There is if people have probably heard Grants Pass last June, the Supreme Court ruled on a homeless situation here. There's probably 300 to maybe 500 homeless people here, so it's a lot less than Santa Cruz. And they're moving them around, but they are a problem here. Not like Santa Cruz, but they are a problem. So they've been working on that and how to do that. There's over 80 nonprofits that deal with the homeless here, and there's still a problem. So the nonprofits are getting the money, and they're not doing much with it.
There are 80 nonprofits in Grants Pass, Oregon?
Yes. It's supposed to be helping the homeless, and as we've heard, a lot of them don't do much.
What's the population of Grants Pass?
I'm not sure the numbers. Mark said it's like the size of Watsonville.
Uh-huh. Wow, 80 nonprofits.
That's been interesting. We actually, and then a senator in Ashland, which is south of here, just over the border, did this fire map and sent it out to everybody saying that we're all in extreme fire hazard. I guess after actually he started it before the LA fires. Mm-hmm. But so I actually went up to Salem, where the Capitol is, a couple of weeks ago, and we all protested this map because it's not accurate. All these people are coming out of the hills and mountains here because their fire insurance is going to at least quadruple, maybe more. And a lot of these people do not have the money. They're already paying high rates.
Yeah.
So they think it's a big property grab, which it probably would be if it was good to proceed. But it's really an inaccurate map. The guy that his name's Jeff Golden, he's a senator. He lives in Ashland, and I found his home address, and one of our people went and droned his house and got video of his house. And he's got as many bushes and trees as the next guy. I mean, everybody. We actually don't have because we're right on the river, but we're an extreme fire hazard. Of course, his house is deemed moderate, and he doesn't have to, he has no penalty for his insurance. But it's baloney because his is just as bad as everybody else's.
The issue of fire insurance rears its ugly head again.
Right.
Well, hey, Kris, we got a caller. Do you want to take the caller?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Let's see if we can get him on the air, Michael. Hello, Michael. Can you hear us?
I certainly can, and it's great to hear Kris on the air again.
Hi, Michael.
How you doing?
Good.
Up there in the state of Jefferson, a couple things. One, when I was working for NBC, my wife and I flew a little Cessna into Grants Pass Airport, and there was a sign on the hangar that said, "Welcome to Grants Pass, home of the Jefferson Air Force." And when I asked the line boy what the Jefferson Air Force was, he said, "Don't even ask." And he just turned his back and walked away. So I started looking around, and I saw state of Jefferson, everything in Grants Pass and Medford and throughout Northern California and Southern Oregon. So I'm wondering if the spirit of the state of Jefferson still lives up there.
I've never seen any. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I've never seen anything referencing that at all.
Oh, okay. No more state of Jefferson banks or anything like that then, huh?
Nope. I've never seen anything that references that. It's we're trying, as conservatives, we're trying to get other counties to go conservative, and then hopefully we can take over the Capitol and all that with a conservative governor, which would be great, because the one we have now is not so great.
Well, isn't it true that part of Oregon wants to, or is talking about seceding and becoming part of the greater Idaho?
Yeah, I've seen that kind of stuff. And actually, I've seen a couple maps, and they leave out this county, which is Josephine County. So I don't know. I don't know about that. Okay. I don't know. But this county is very conservative. Like, I had a big 4x8 Trump sign on my front fence before the election, and
nobody keyed your car?
No. Well, we have 7 acres, so we've got some property. There's no one walking around out here, that's for sure. But
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty, it's very conservative. We actually have an office for the Republicans, and that's not the only reason I'm here by any means, but we actually have an office for the Republicans, and it's, you feel safe walking in and out of it. It's great. We're doing a Patriot conference next Saturday up here, and there should be a lot of people, and I've gotten to know our state representatives, and it's really pretty cool. It's way different, just way different. So
the other thing I wanted to mention up there, and since you're on the Rogue, my wife and I once rafted the Rogue down to the ocean, and that is one hell of a river. So,
where did you start that?
I think it was downstream from you a little ways.
Yeah, so we see a lot of boats go by, especially during duck season, and we hear a lot of gunshot going off. But that's over now, so now it's just fishing. And I've met a gal that likes to go kayaking with those self-bailing kayaks, and we will probably go do that. I'm kind of looking forward to that as the weather. But man, this river moves fast. I warned Matt about letting his dog go out in it during the winter because it's fast moving.
Yes,
a lot of water.
I'm also pretty certain that they made a movie there of
maybe.
Yeah, it was a Wild West movie of some kind, but the lower Rogue, as it goes, past you and then down to the ocean, it gets pretty wild. It's a great river to raft if you like chills and thrills.
I think it's a class 4 and 5, which is pretty adventurous for sure. So yeah, it's a long river, and it amazes me that it's like watching the ocean. That those waves are always lapping the sand, and this water is always moving, and it's a lot of water.
Yep.
It's not a little
beautiful river. Yeah.
Yes. We're when it rained a lot in the beginning of December, in December, maybe end of December, it was up a good 12, 14 feet, and that's pretty high.
Mm.
My house is built up. It's built by FEMA rules and regulations, so the hole underneath is empty. So if the river was to come up there, and I don't think it would ever come up this high, my house would be okay. So that's good.
It is good.
Well, good for you, and say hello to everybody up there in the state of Jefferson for us.
Yeah, I don't see any reference to that at all, which is interesting. Well, Michael, as I've told you before, you're welcome to come up and stay. We have plenty of room.
Who knows? Might show up one day.
I know.
But maybe we'll all get inner tubes and float the Rogue to the ocean.
I don't know if inner tubes. What were you in? Were you in inner?
Well, we had a guide, and we were in rubber raft, and they cooked us dinner too. And we camped out. It was a very, very pleasurable experience.
Wow.
We might have to check that out. There is a Wild River boat that I don't know how many people they put in them, 25, 30, with life jackets, and they zip up and down this river during the
those are the jet boats, right?
Yeah, and they make quick U-turns, and I mean we did it, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago. So they go by our house. And there's a thing on Memorial Day weekend called Boatnik, and that's a big deal with race boats up and down this river. So that'll be fun to see.
Wow.
I don't know. It's just different.
Yeah.
And I'm all for different at this point in my life.
Well, enjoy it. But listen, we miss you.
Yeah.
I know. It's a weird thing. I have not been back since the end of October, and it's odd, but it feels right. So.
Yeah.
But thank you. I miss everybody, too.
Well, what about your sidekick? And she's in Arizona.
Yeah, they just actually sold their house in Scotts Valley. I think it closes or it might have closed already this week. And they have a condo in Scotts Valley because they like to golf and see old family and friends there. So, but yeah, they're in Scottsdale most of the time now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, she's good.
Well, so what's going to happen when everybody leaves Santa Cruz?
I don't think everybody's going to leave, but I'm telling you, that traffic was really just such a waste of our life.
Did you realize it while you were here, or had it just kind of become part of daily life? Did you realize it more after you moved away and it wasn't there?
Well, both.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hated it. You control when you're going to go somewhere or where you're going to go because of the traffic, and I just didn't want to live my life like that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's really no traffic here. When you get down into Medford, I think during the 5 o'clock time, it can get kind of a little bit more. You have to wait at lights a little bit more, but it's nothing like down there.
Medford is like the San Jose, right?
Yes, and that's where Costco is, and we go there at least once a week. It's like 25 miles. It's not that far, but that's where a lot of people that work here live because there's more to do, like young people.
Oh.
And I don't know. I'm just meeting some really quality people that live up here, and most people are older. I mean, there's a lot of gray hairs. There's a lot of, but I'm okay with that because I'm kind of in that category now. I'm not that I have gone gray, but yeah.
Good for you.
I'm getting old.
Well, come visit sometime.
She's going to visit here every month on Community Matters, Michael.
There you go.
That's keeping our tie here. And we have another caller here if you'd like. Our good friend and fellow Santa Cruz Voice host, Jeff Bosshard, is calling. Can I bring him in?
All right,
Sure.
I'm out of here.
Okay.
Okay, bye, Michael.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Michael. Bye. Hello, Jeff. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm getting an earful from you and Kris, Michael, and just about everybody I know now, which isn't hard to understand. My program on Monday ends, and then at 2 o'clock, we'd like to hear the elephant in the room. But I think that's all recorded things. I just wanted to thank Kris for helping you and I get started with Santa Cruz Voice way back when, over 2 years ago. Been good ever since. Thank you, Kris.
Oh, nope, yeah, it was, I missed doing my show. I've talked about doing another show up here with a couple different people, and I think it would be fun, but I haven't really found the right people to talk to about doing it. Doing a radio show is a lot of fun.
It is, and you two were very good. Now you're so far apart. You might think about just being able to. I've gotten some of the things I would need to do a show from home. I'm not going to do it right away, but just getting an idea of it. I would encourage you, and it's on the other hand, it's kind of discouraging to hear all of the problems that you are meeting. You can't run away from just by moving up there. So I'm sticking here because my wife is sticking here, and we're going to be happy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and sometimes it gets to a point where you don't want to move, but we were at the spot where I needed to do it for my own health, so my mental health, I guess. So, but I do miss my friends like Becky and Carmen. I talked to Carmen yesterday.
Excellent.
And she's doing okay.
Good.
So, anyway, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Just wanted to say howdy.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
waiting for Jim.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. You're welcome to hang on and participate or drop off, whatever you'd like to do. Oh, it looks like he's gone.
I'll still listen.
Okay.
I might tap on the and walk in, but I wouldn't come in without your permission.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. You're listening to Community Matters. This is your host, Becky Steinbrunner. I have as my esteemed guest in the second hour here, Kris Kirby, who had lived in Aptos for decades, raised a family, had a business, and decided it was time for something different, and moved with her husband and pets and lots of memories out of California up to Grants Pass, Oregon. And now many people are considering moving out of California for different reasons. So if you're one of them, why don't you call in? Or if maybe you have moved too, call in. 831-265-5050 and join the conversation. Kris, while you were talking with Michael, I looked up the population of Grants Pass, Oregon. It's 39,112.
So is that about the size of Watsonville?
It could be. It seems a little smaller, actually. But tell us, because we were talking a little earlier, I had some information from Pods that moving. You would recommend that. What if you were really lucky to find such a wonderful large property where you didn't have to part with what you did too much. I think that's the hard part. That would be the hard part for me. How did you decide what to keep and what to take?
Well, I probably should have gotten rid of more, and I don't know, it's just so quick. I mean, you saw me go through it. They say if you haven't enjoyed something, or if something doesn't bring you joy and you haven't touched it in the last 5 years, get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Another friend of mine moved from Patterson up to Mariposa, and she says, I look for, I don't know, what's something you'd look for. And she can't find it, so then she'll just order another one on Amazon. And so she knows she has two of a lot of stuff. But, I mean, how much stuff do we really need?
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a consumer of stuff, so I don't know. We just had to do it.
Uh-huh.
The pod thing was great. It really was great. It's cheaper than using a mover, but I don't know. Becky, it was so fast, as you know, that I just didn't really have time to think about very much.
And I think that's maybe the way to do it, huh? If you can, just push yourself and put on your parachute and go.
Yeah. I don't know. If something brings you joy, take it. If not, get rid of it. I mean, how much stuff do we really need?
Yeah.
So, I mean, my house is not small, so that helped. And I mean, we got our couch. Our couch had seen, it seen a lot of wear. Think of being, raising all my boys and all that. And I love this darn couch. It was so comfortable. And so we brought it with the intent of putting it up in this apartment we have. And it wouldn't fit up the stairs, so I put it on Marketplace for $50. It was gone within an hour. And I felt good about that because it was going to some family, and they will love it for, however many years too.
Yeah.
So I bought new couches. I mean, it's just, I don't know. How much stuff do we really need?
Yeah. I think back to the time when my husband and I rode our bikes across the United States.
Which that story amazes me.
It amazes me some days too, Kris. But it was a great thing, and I remember the sense of freedom when it just hit me one day. I have everything I need. Everything I need is on my bike, and I'm pushing it across the country. And really, that's all you need is basic.
Yeah. We don't need all this other stuff.
No. But as you and I both know, being moms, there is the sentimental piece of us. And that's where I think I would have a very difficult time. How do you part with things that have sentimental value? Did you run into that?
A couple of years ago, I made big tubs of stuff of the boys' schoolwork and grade, report cards and all that. And they all looked at me like I was crazy giving it to them because they could care less. So, and then Eric was mad at us for the last year and a half, and I told my son Matt, I said, tell Eric we're bringing all of his stuff over. I mean, from the Marines and all of his yearbooks and all that. And his message back was just throw it away. Well, of course I couldn't do that. So we brought all his stuff up here, and it's still up here. And I told him when I talked to him last week, I still have all your yearbooks. We did not throw any of it away, and you could tell he was happy we didn't. So hopefully I I don't know if he'll come get it, or we're going to have to hold on to it till we die. Who knows? But yeah, that stuff is hard. It's hard. I get that.
It is. I remember when I came to visit you while you were in that process, and you held up Eric's first pair of glasses, and
oh, that was Matt. Yeah,
oh, Matt. And I just, that's I think would be the hardest piece for me but Dave has been going through things.
Look at it. What if you had a fire?
Yeah.
And all that stuff went away? Your life still goes on.
Yeah.
So I had given Daniel his box of stuff, and Brian we dropped his off at his house one day, and just said, "Here, this is now yours. It's your stuff. If you want to throw it away, don't tell me about it." Yeah, that stuff is hard. And photos, yeah, but you think of these people that have lost their houses in fires, and they didn't have a say. That's a tough thing.
Yeah. That was traumatic. That was a traumatic loss, and so you could look at it that you have the opportunity to do the respectful separation, I will call it, of those things, and just let go of it in the manner you wish to do. So there is that benefit. My husband.
I have this table that my mom, I guess it was my grandmother's, and my mom had it, and I had it, and I'd given it to Matt, and I forgot all about it until he moved his stuff up here, and they pulled this table out of the trailer, and I went, "Oh, you have that table that was my grandmother's." And he says, "I love this table." And it was like a homecoming on my heart to see that he's using this table that was my grandmother's, and I had forgotten all about it. Just a stupid old table, but I was really happy to see that he still had it and used it. Isn't that interesting? I don't know.
These things. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about fire risk mapping up there in Oregon. That is also happening here. Last week, the State Fire Marshal issued updated fire maps for many areas of California, including Santa Cruz County. Many areas up in Oakland were, in Oakland, I think things were actually downgraded. But other areas have been upgraded from moderate to high fire risk. And the State Fire Marshal assures people this will not affect your insurance because the insurance companies are using different information. Tell us what's going. Yeah, I know. That's what I thought too. But tell us a little bit about fire insurance up in Oregon, because that's a big piece. A lot of people here don't have it, or have had to choose not to have it if you don't have a mortgage, or to go on the very expensive, unfair, fair plan.
Yeah. So when we moved up here, I think the previous owner's insurance was like $2,000 or $2,500 a year. So we expected, it was with farmers, so that's what we expected. So I called the agent, and she said, "Oh, no, they won't insure you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" Well, if anybody was listening to our show, Kristen and my show, The Elephant in the Room, a few years ago, they heard me talk about, we owned a fourplex in Chico, and I had squatters take over one of the apartments, and I had to legally evict them, and it was a process, like 6 months. And they trashed our apartment, holes in the wall, every single wall, spray painted everything, ruined it. So I did an insurance claim on vandalism. It was about $40,000 was the claim, and I replaced all the cabinets, the appliances, the bathroom, everything. I mean, everything. And because of that loss, our insurance is now just over $5,000 because of that loss. And I said, that makes zero sense. Our home, where we've lived for 27 years, never had a claim. But because we had this claim that was out of my control, I couldn't control if these guys went in it. I couldn't do anything. The cops told me to stay away because they were dangerous, and we legally had to evict them once we did get done. But that claim screwed us up here, which I thought was interesting. So our insurance is a little over $5,000 a year here. But we're saving money on some of the other things that didn't really affect us. Like our car insurance has gone down. Our March payroll taxes have gone down. Well, gas. What are you guys paying for gas there now?
It's around $4.93.
Oh, so $5.
Yeah.
I just filled up just this afternoon. I think it was like $3.20.
Wow.
Which
Wow.
is high for this area, but definitely not high compared to there.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think there, and no sales tax is, I mean, it's like getting a 10% raise.
Yeah.
Especially when I was buying couches and buying things.
Oh,
Mark bought
goodness.
a tractor.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I think it was like $25,000, and think of the tax on that would have been another $2,500, no tax.
Wow. That really adds up. Tell us
It really adds up.
tell us about the cost of food. What is like a
It's
Is it
about
higher?
the same, sadly, because there's Safeway and Albertsons, and it's about the same. I see no difference in that.
uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
going out to eat, things are cheaper. Yeah, I would say food is about the same. There is a Winco. I'm now a Winco shopper. That's an interesting thing. And that's a stressful shopping situation.
Stressful?
Have you ever shopped at a Winco?
My
because-
son shops at Winco in Washington State.
Well, he probably does it with his girlfriend or mom or whoever, that his wife. What, I guess they are married, aren't they?
They're getting
Anyway,
married soon.
If you're there with two people, it's easier, because when they're scanning and you're going to get ready to pay and all this stuff's going down this one side of and you're trying to bag also, it's stressful. And if you have your cart in not the right place, people tell you, "Excuse me." So it's easier with two people.
So it's more stressful than Costco? I get stressed out at
Yes.
Costco. Oh.
Yes, it's more stressful. It's just, I guess I haven't figured out the knack. Maybe that's it. So, yeah, Winco's good, and then we just went to Fred Meyer's. Love that. Matt has never been in, and he didn't know it was a grocery store and clothing and mops and, trash cans, that kind of stuff. It's an interesting store. It's just, everything's different.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I'm looking out at my trees, and we have these herons, with the long beak and the long legs.
Oh, yeah.
I could probably count. We have nests up there, and I think they're from last year. There's no leaves yet on any trees, so you can really see what nests and birds and things. There must be 10 herons up in these trees.
Oh, my goodness.
And then
Oh.
here goes this boat with 3 different fishermen on it, and the fishing poles are still in the water.
Oh, nice.
I'll have to take a picture of where I am right now, and you can see all this, and I'll email it to you.
Yeah. So it sounds like, Kris, you have no regrets at all of moving out of
Zero.
California. Yeah.
Other than my friends, you
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah.
But people have come up. I know Vivica is going to come up. She's having a birthday next week, and she'll come up. She's having her hip or her knee replaced,
Oh.
so she'll come up after she recovers from that. And yeah, I miss my friends for sure.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're making new friends. What has been the easiest way to make new friends in a new place for you?
Just talking to people. Like, I had to find a new hairdresser. I'm going to the doctor next week that I've never gone to. You just have to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Republican the office has helped, and I've got some good friends through there now. We go to this place called Area 61, and it's kind of like Beer 30, and you have beers, and there's usually music, and that's kind of fun on weekends. But Mark and I were talking about what I was going to talk with you about, and he said we actually have an impact here.
You feel
Down
like...
there, yeah, we as conservatives, we have an impact. I mean, I've gotten to know my state representatives and local commissioners and the city council and all of them, and they actually listen, and they're friendly and they're approachable, and they're, it's good.
What a concept. Your elected officials actually are willing to sit down with you and listen.
Right. Mark's volunteered for a couple boards, financial board, or boards as a financial person. He got accepted on one, and he's waiting to hear from another one. Yeah, they want people's input. It's just we feel like we have an impact here.
Wow. Let me tell you about and the listeners about something that's happening here that really illustrates the opposite of what's happening in Santa Cruz, from what you're experiencing up there, Kris, in Grants Pass, Oregon. You know about the Moss Landing Vistra battery fire.
Yeah, and I'm so glad to be away from it.
And there has been virtually no information given out to people asking for information. Monterey County has done a better job of holding Board of Supervisor meetings about it and meeting with the public. Santa Cruz County is so dismal. It is shocking. The Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors, the fire started on January 16th. Monterey County held a special board meeting on January 21st, and the room was packed, and they were answering questions. They had people there to answer the questions, and the Board of Supervisors asked questions. Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors held their regularly scheduled board meeting on January 28th, had a report largely from Monterey County officials, and basically, shoved it under the rug and said, well, that's Monterey County's problem. Even though that smoke plume went over Santa Cruz County, and Santa Cruz County residents filled that room January 28th. And yet, there has been no follow-up, even though many members of the public have asked that the County Board of Supervisors put this on their agenda every single time. There has been no follow-up. Only Supervisor Manu Koenig asked for soil and water testing to be done in Santa Cruz County regarding heavy metals, because over in Monterey County, there was a study done by the Moss Landing Marine Lab scientists who had happened to be taking soil tests around the slough for 10 years and had great background information. Their heavy metal readings came up hundreds to thousands of times more. The Monterey County people have been better, but still not doing a very good job. Santa Cruz County has just closed the door. They refuse to hold town hall meetings.
Becky, why are you surprised? You have been listening to these people for years.
This is the Moss Landing Vistra plant is the largest battery energy storage plant in the world. People all over the world know about this fire, and here we are in Santa Cruz County, and the elected officials are trying to sweep it under the rug. And so this group called Never Again Moss Landing, a citizens group, did their own citizen science collection of things, of soil, and found the same results as the Moss Landing Marine Lab scientists found, and nobody's talking about it. They're they're going to hold a protest on March 13th at the California Coastal Commission meeting. They're meeting in Santa Cruz. The Coastal Commission is meeting in Santa Cruz. So Never Again Moss Landing is going to do a demonstration there at 8 o'clock, March 13th, in front of the Marriott Courtyard Hotel. That's at 313 Riverside Avenue in Santa Cruz. People, we've got to be there. We have got to be there.
Yeah.
Because the Coastal Commission has to be accountable for this, for allowing it next to the marine sanctuary, next to the slough. And here in Santa Cruz...
Well, they're talking about putting in new battery plants there, too.
In Santa Cruz, yes. And in Santa Cruz County, the Board of Supervisors has approved 3 of them. One in Watsonville. And so tomorrow, a Saturday at 10 a.m., there's a citizens group meeting at the Aptos Library. We have got to link arms and fight this, people. So, Kris, that's what's happening in Santa Cruz County. We miss you.
I'm so glad I'm up here, but thank you, and I'll talk to everyone next month.
Okay.
Thank you, Becky. You're the best.
Thank you so much, Kris. Take care. You're listening.
Okay, you too.
Thank you. You're listening to Community Matters. This is Becky Steinbruner. I've had the honor of having Gillian Greensite on and now Kris Kirby, and I want to thank you all for listening. Stay tuned next Friday.